Hey everybody, Erin here with a really special guest. You guys, this is Danielle Sherry. She is the creative director of Horticulture, Fine Gardening, and Garden Gate magazine, collectively known as the Garden Group, the former editor of Fine Gardening, but now you've moved on to this new role, right?
I've moved on to this new role, so now I have 3 different gardening magazines and get to be involved in the content in 3 different of our, well, dare I say, the best gardening magazines on the planet. But yeah, it's very exciting, very exciting.
So, okay, so how long have you been in the gardening magazine world?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I started as a crime reporter for a newspaper, actually. But both of my parents were in horticulture. One was a landscape architect and a nurseryman, and another one was my mom worked in the seed industry. And so I basically saw this posting for a assistant editor at Fine Gardening, and my editor at the newspaper said, "I'd hate to lose you, but that seems like a perfect fit." So that was 2007. And I started as an assistant with Fine Gardening magazine and moved all the way up to executive editor there through all the ranks. I did the dishes there. I watered plants there and got to see some pretty cool stuff along the way.
So I would imagine, I'm just guessing, you maybe have seen more private gardens than most people. I mean, well, certainly than most people, but like you've got to be. I mean, I'm sure you've probably been in hundreds of private gardens.
I think that's fair to say. Yeah, and almost every state too, which is kind of cool. I did that the other day. What states have I not been?
Yeah,
to?
which ones are you missing?
I am not been to North Dakota.
Okay.
So if you're out there and you have a nice North Dakota garden, call me.
Yeah.
North Dakota have not been to Mississippi either. Those were 2 that were at the top of my list.
Have you been to Alaska and Hawaii?
I have not been to Alaska. I have been to Hawaii.
Oh, nice. But probably should be happy to go back to Hawaii if any of you Hawaiian gardeners are looking to have her swing by your garden.
Absolutely.
So you're going there to scout gardens for future stories or work on stories. Are there other reasons you visit private gardens, or are those kind of the main 2 things?
Yeah, we go, we scout, and I feel like the best way to find other gardens is through the gardeners that you go to visit, because we are this interesting, weird, eclectic tribe that everybody seems to know the gardeners in their area and who else you should go visit, because somebody will whisper to you, "Oh, if you're going there, you should go see so-and-so," which is how I found you initially, because Jeff Epping from Old Brick at the time down in Madison, Wisconsin said, "Oh, well, hey, you're driving pretty close. You should go visit Erin." And that's just
that was what, like 3 years ago. So now Danielle is here because we're working on we're pretty exciting. We're working on a story for Fine Gardening. So in the, which issue is it going to be? January issue?
It's going to be in the Jan Feb for 2026. It's our inaugural issue of next year, which we're actually working on right now, which is weird for people to wrap their heads around, but we work on content almost a year in advance. So
yeah, good. Well, you're going to be able to read all about it in the whole thing. So, subscribe.
Yeah.
I'll put a link. I'll put a link, you guys, to subscribe to Fine Garden. Subscribe to magazines. They're wonderful.
They are.
So this is what I want to know. So I know that every time I go into another person's garden, every single time I leave with something, like there is an idea, there's a plant. I don't think I've ever seen another garden and not taken away something from it that I'm like, okay, some part of that is going to end up in my garden. So what is your garden like? Because how do you manage going into hundreds of gardens and all the inspiration you get with it and then going home to your own garden?
Well, first of all, I go home and I feel really bad about myself and my garden. No, my garden, for the most part, is a very woody plant-based garden because I needed a pretty low-maintenance garden, because when I was doing all of my traveling for the last 20 years for gardening magazines, it's during the season.
Right.
So I can't have a whole lot of needy plants in my garden. So I have lots of trees, lots of shrubs, lots of masses of perennials. But you know that when you're in the horticulture business, you get a lot of free plants. It's really nice.
It's not a bad perk.
No, it's not a bad perk, but I can't say no to a free plant. So I had a lot of onesieitis going on in my garden for a long time. And so over the years, I've just tried to weed that out a bit more
Yep.
and concentrate masses of plants a bit more, give
Yeah.
it a little more cohesiveness to it.
I'm sure you see really cool plants in gardens. So this is like, I have come home from gardens and immediately run to garden centers and bought things. I mean, how do you deal with it? Are you just immune to this must have it feeling?
I
Or
am not. I am not. One of my best stories was I was out in Seattle and I saw Mr. Whistle's Canisiparus,
Mhm.
which was this really cool plant that was in a garden, and it looked like, it's this conifer that looks like it's got waving arms, like one of those blow up guys at the car dealerships. And I tracked it down. I think at the time it might have been at Ravenna Gardens, and it was a 3-foot tall tree. And I took it on the plane with me, and it sat right next to me in the seat. And the gentleman who was on the aisle sat down and he looked over and he goes, I've traveled my entire life and that's a first right there. And so I took its little thing and I waved at him, and he must have thought I was absolutely out of my mind.
Right,
But yeah,
right.
yeah. So I bring them home with me.
Okay, so where's your garden? In Connecticut, right?
My garden's in Connecticut, kind of south central Connecticut. I'm about 20 minutes from the coast of Connecticut on the Connecticut River. So apparently we're a zone 6 now. I think I'm a 5B.
Right,
all day.
right. I like you and I are in the same. It's funny, we're in
Yeah.
the same zone, and we both think we're real questioning our new zone.
We really are.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I don't push it.
Right.
Whenever possible.
Oh no, I've been trying to grow zone 7 plants for a while now.
Oh my gosh, I babied an Edgeworthia in the back of my garden area for about 5 years, and then it was an ice storm that finally just took it out.
Well, listen, if there is a plant worth babying, it's an Edgeworthia, because that is one of my zone envy plants for sure.
It was totally worth it. It was worth every tear I shed over it for those 4 or 5 years. But
Are you seeing some trends in gardens? I mean, compared to the gardens you were looking at 20 years ago, what are you seeing that's different today?
I mean, I do feel like, and I sound like a broken record probably from what everybody else is saying, but, a lot more native consciousness. 20 years ago, I don't feel like I was in that many gardens where people were, eager to point out the native plants that they had in the garden or the plants that they really truly were using for pollinators, that sort of thing. So I feel like that has changed a bit. And dare I say, I feel like people have loosened up a little bit more. Because I feel like 2 decades ago, everything had to be in its place and prim and proper, and there wasn't this, laissez-faire. Here's the area that I just let, serendipity take over. And that, I don't know, I feel like that has made gardening a bit more inclusive. People don't feel like it has to be perfect in order to be shared on Instagram.
I'm so happy to hear that, because the sort of gatekeeping part of gardening is really unappealing to me. And so the idea of people being a little looser and not, so prim and proper about stuff. Okay, so here's going to be a tough question for you, and it's totally an unfair question.
Okay.
What gardens that you've been in, like, really stick in your mind as, like, for whatever reason? Maybe they were particularly spectacular. Maybe people had a really creative way of dealing with an interesting space, or was something you'd never seen before. There must be garden sets. I'm sure, obviously you're seeing so many gardens all the time. I'm sure it's hard to even keep them straight. But are there ones that stand out to you as being just particularly prominent for some reason? Told you it was a tough question and completely unfair.
You know what? There was a garden that we featured in Fine Gardening. Gosh, it was probably 10 years ago now, and it was Mary and Lou Reed. No relation to the musician at all. And they were in California, I believe, in the Sebastopol area of California. And the name of the article I just remember was Lessons Learned from a 25-year-plus garden. And it was just a really interesting garden because they realized that they had a very common soil substrate and zone as the Mediterranean. So they had introduced a lot of Mediterranean plants into their garden. And, they also were not afraid of, hey, that wasn't doing well. 5 years in. So I ripped it out and I started over. And that was just so refreshing, I think, at that time for me to
Yeah.
hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So that garden was really, really beautiful. And, you know, California, just gorgeous. And I think I had a bit of zone envy there as well. But the garden of Dennis Schrader and Bill Smith, who are out in Mattatuck, Long Island. They're in the middle of wine country. They have a really, really landcraft and environments nursery, which they specialize in these really, really cool oddball tropicals and temperennials. And their gardens are all infused in that. But they had in the middle of their garden like a Balinese tiki hut that was all with outdoor couches and I just remember tons of panicle hydrangeas and verbena bonariensis all over the place. And I just sat there and I really felt like I was in Bali because I've never been.
Yeah.
But it was a really beautiful, stunning garden that it sticks in my mind that, you know, it's super important to live in your garden too, to really be in the garden.
Yeah.
And right now I'm crushing hard on Jay Sifford and Jay Sifford's designs in North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
His mountain house up in the mountains of North Carolina where he created this modern meadow effect, which was from basically a really terrible situation where he was right on the road and they dug out a septic tank and it was just carnage, and he created this really magical meadow that he talked about making it inspirational from Mary Poppins. And when you're in that garden and all of the, you know, the movement and the colors, and I truly felt like I could dance with penguins. I mean, it was that magical. So
I love that, though, you know, those stories of somebody who's faced with a really tough problem and then coming up with a solution that is probably better than they ever could have come up with if they hadn't faced that problem to begin with. You know, forces you, sometimes those garden problems force you to think creatively, and they force you into solutions that never would have happened were it not for that, you know, sort of unfortunate situation that led you that far.
Absolutely. My biggest nightmare would be to ever move to a house or a piece of property that was just flat.
Yeah.
I would have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
If it didn't have problems.
Right.
I feel like that would stifle me.
Yeah. Well, because the world that you could do anything, and that's those are too many options.
Too many options.
It's good to be constrained a little bit sometimes by problems.
Yes.
Or what else are you doing on this little tour of the Midwest?
So I am,
or this little corner of the Midwest.
I'm heading down. Yes, this little corner. I am heading down to see Roy Diblick tomorrow. So we're going to hang out at Northwind Perennial Nursery, which is going to be fun, and see some of Roy's private residence designs.
You're in for such a treat.
I'm very excited. We've never met in person.
Yeah,
so
you're gonna have an amazing time with him.
And then I'm hitting the road and I'm heading out to Chicago Botanic Garden to hang out with Richard Hockey, which he's going to be embarrassed by us saying this, but we've decided he is the Vin Diesel of horticulture. So, I mean, it's an insider story, but Andy Pulte from UT went out with apparently his son to Chicago Botanic Garden, saw a picture of Richard Hockey in that Vin Diesel pose and said, "That guy looks like Vin Diesel." And I said, "That's it. He's the Vin Diesel of horticulture." So we're starting.
You heard it here first. Make sure if you ever happen to run into Richard Hockey, just let him know he's the Vin Diesel of horticulture.
So we're going to go out there. We're going to check out some of the new trials that Richard has going on out at Chicago Botanic Garden.
And Richard, by the way, a huge contributor to Fine Gardening. Many of his trial articles have been published in Fine Gardening, and he does the best. I think everybody kind of agrees that he does the best plant trials probably of anybody.
I definitely think so, and I think it's just what all of us want to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody loves panicle hydrangeas, but if I'm going to invest the money
to
go out and buy 3 or 4 shrubs of a panicle hydrangea, like, what's the one that I want?
Right.
You know, put it to the test.
Right. And his tests and their tests are super thorough. I mean, I think they do shrub tests for like almost 7 to 10 years.
7 to 10 years for shrubs, 3 to 4 years for perennial. A little bit of a teaser here. He's doing agastache right now, and ones that we think might be hardy but might not be hardy. So he's kind of growing them, knowing that, you know, there might be some winter die off with these tender species. But Do
I
any
love
of them make it?
I'm looking forward to that because I love them. I love them all. It's very frustrating to me. You know, we were just talking, there is one that we have in the garden this year that's new this year, which is the Summer Long series. We were just looking at it, admiring it. And it's sort of being marketed as, well, in many areas they're marketing it as an annual. And actually 2 colors of it are in the Proven Winners line, and they're marketing it fully as an annual. I think it's listed as hardy to zone 7, maybe.
I think so, yes.
I like it enough that I'm happy to grow it as an annual. I just kind of want to know. I just want to know what I'm in for. Like, I'm going to plant it as an annual if it's going to be an annual for me. But I'm going to get mad if I stick it in a spot where I'm expecting a perennial and it doesn't come back, because now I have to find a different perennial to replace that for.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of, sometimes it's just a frame of mind thing.
No, that's super true. Or I want to know, is it going to maybe self-sow a little bit? Because, you know, there were all those beautiful Cufias last year that came out that were gorgeous, and, you know, 7B, no way, I'm not in the mix. Self-sowed this year for me. You know, we had a milder winter on the East Coast, and now they're about ready to bloom. I mean, bonus. They're everywhere, which I'm okay with, a little serendipity. But if a tender perennial / annual does that for me, it's finding a place in my mostly woody plant garden.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question probably. What types of plants, what plants are you really into right now? Like, what's really catching your eye? What are you really digging right now?
Man, I'm starting to get a little bit of a fern thing. Like a little, I've been bitten. I'm like, what, 6 years too late? But I've been bitten by the fern bug a little bit.
Yeah, well, the world of ferns is so enormous that you can really go down a rabbit hole.
Massive. And I've got a lot of dry shade areas in my garden, and I'm finding, you know, super invaluable some species, you know, the lady ferns, even some of the maidenhair ferns, the eastern native, does really well in that. So I'm starting to get bit a little bit by the fern bug, but I mean, I'm an East Coast girl, so hydrangeas, baby. It's all about the hydrangeas. You can't get away from them. I mean,
will we ever get away from hydrangeas? Probably not.
We will not. But I mean, when great ones like, what were we just talking about?
Yeah, we're just talking about Haas Halo.
Haas Halo, gorgeous hydrangea. You can't just have one.
No.
So you have to have 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I feel like, I can't help it.
You know, the thing with hydrangeas is that I feel like everyone loves hydrangeas so much that the market is so flooded with new hydrangeas. And actually, this kind of goes back to the trial thing, which is like, you know, it does get a little exhausting. You're like, well, wait a second. And I don't think nobody expects anybody to rip out the hydrangeas they have.
No.
But I do think for me, it has given me the freedom of being like, there are too many great hydrangeas on the market to be sitting around here with anything that isn't really doing it for you.
Totally. So rehome it.
Yeah.
Rehome it to the compost
right,
pile.
Just gonna say, so real far away to the compost.
To the farm.
Right.
We're gonna take it to the farm down the street.
Send it to the farm, right. Right.
But yeah, no, I completely agree that there are way too many good ones out there. And for the most part, I will say I've given up on macrophylla. I have. It's just not going to perform for me on a consistent basis and give me flowers, regardless of it blooms on new wood, it blooms on old wood. Forget it. If I'm getting a late frost, that puppy is getting hacked, and it's not going to bloom for me.
Yeah, let me know when you buy your next macrophylla, because I've said that too. I've said that too, and yet I can look at three of them. I can look at three of them right over there. Right there. Yeah. So. Yeah, well, it's much like, for me, it's much like roses. I have learned, as you, dear viewers, know, that I try not to swear things off anymore, because invariably I have to take the heat. Like 3 years later, when someone's like, "I thought you said you weren't growing that anymore." I did, but here I am.
Exactly.
Because something else came along and stole my heart, and this time it's going to be different.
So. It's like Tinder for hydrangeas.
It's Tinder for hydrangeas.
Nope. Okay, when I swipe right and yes on a macrophylla, you can rewind the tape. And
one thing I think we should end with here is, what if somebody has a great garden? What if somebody thinks their garden is great? Should they how should they let you guys know about that?
Well, listen, here's a great thing. We do the G Pod, which we call the Garden Photo of the Day. It is this really active community of gardeners throughout North America, actually internationally. We just had a garden on the G Pod from the Czech Republic. Submit it to the G Pod, which I believe you can send it to FG. FG@taunton.com, and you can submit your photos that way, and we find a lot of gardens that way. And even if it doesn't make it into the magazine or the pages of Fine Gardening, you could be a garden photo of the day, where it is this e-letter that goes out and this article that lives on finegardening.com for people to see. So yeah. I feel like that's the best way to do it. Or tell Erin and she'll tell me.
Okay. A lot of pressure there.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, you guys. The Fine Gardening website has just a treasure trove. I mean, the archive of stuff that is there, the number of times that I'm searching for something and I end up there, treasure trove of stuff there. And you do get several articles free. You can also subscribe and get all of them.
You definitely
It's not very expensive. I don't know. I'm an all access.
Yes.
I'm an all access member.
I think we add an extra $10 onto a subscription, and you get unlimited access to online, which is where we put a lot of now new content, video content. We have regional reports. Yeah. Yep. So we have reporters, Andy Pulte being one of them that we mentioned earlier, that, basically are in your backyard of wherever you garden, because gardening is regional, to report on, what are the cool plants? What are the hydrangeas worth growing out in the Mountain West? So right. I think that that's a cool aspect.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. It's always fun to hang out with gardeners and talk gardens. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed meeting Danielle. Look for the article in the January issue of Fine Gardening.
Yes,
right?
It's going to be great.
Well, let's hope.
It is.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.